Hey guys, it's Kay from KS Anonymous, and I'm back today with another episode of r/MaliciousCompliance. Boss tells me not to email any of her bosses because only she can communicate with them. Years ago, I was working for a large organization. My boss was very nice and pleasant to work with at first. I was hired and tasked with taking a very troubled department and bringing it up in standards. My boss was fairly supportive during the initial few months of the job, but then something changed. The department began to perform and improve greatly within the first 6 months, and this was recognized and heralded by upper management. This made my boss look good and also improved overall morale on the team within the troubled department as they were finally recognized for their efforts and talents. About this time, 6-month mark, I was told to watch my back by a few other colleagues, both men and women outside of my department, because my boss had a reputation for putting her own success over anyone else's. They also warned me that she was known for being very threatened by any successful males who worked with her. Male here. She was a very big champion of the women on her team and regularly promoted and advocated for them, but it seems that every male that worked on her team ended up leaving or getting fired. This was something I was not aware of when I was hired. I also am the only male on the team. After investigating this further, I found there to be some truth to all of this. As it happens, over a 12-year period, over 8 men on her team either quit or were fired, 6 fired and 2 quit. Of the women on her team during the same time period, 8 were promoted, 2 quit, 4 were still on her team, and 0 were fired. So I am a bit concerned about this now, as 1, I am a male, and 2, she has this reputation for making it difficult for men on her team. I just took this all in stride, however, and focused on continuing to manage the department to greater levels, working on continuing to increase the morale of the department, and ensuring I communicate with my boss regularly about any situation that would become problematic for her or me. I also focused on ensuring that she got maximum credit for the improvements of the troubled department, and credited her with being a great boss that ensured that the department received the resources and support that it needed to succeed. Fast forward to about my 8th month there, and I am in a meeting with my boss, and she begins to rage against me that I emailed someone who was in the upper management of the company. I explained to her that yes, I did CC that VP because the email in question was one that necessarily involved the entire area under which this particular VP led. She said I am not to do that, and then proceeds to tell me that I am forbidden to email anyone that is above my pay grade as, quote, that is not my place. She then tells me that only she is allowed to email these people, and that if an email needs to go to them, CC or not, she will send it. I ask her if she would like me to send the emails that would need to go to VPs to her for her to send, and she tells me, yes, send them to me and I will send them. I ask her also if she wishes I do not call the VPs on the phone as well, and she says, yes, you are not to call them either. Then she says, I know you may be used to getting your way because you're a man, but this doesn't mean you can try to take my job. What? I'm kind of befuddled at this and just take it all in and decide that I need to respect her wishes because there must be something else going on here of which I am not aware. Okay, fine. We will do it your way. About a month goes by, and during that time I only need to email a VP once, and I write up the email to this VP's department, send it to her, and then wait for her to send it on. Now, this email is time sensitive and involves giving the VP and his people a heads up about the resources needed for a particular project. Now, the VP must be included in this email because this request involved budgetary issues, and only the VP over a specific area is allowed to change or adapt their budget. Otherwise, I would have just communicated directly with the members of this other VP's team to give them the heads up. So I send the email to my boss, ask her to send it on within the next 3 days, and then I wait. About a week goes by, and I happen to run into this particular VP in the elevator. She asked me about the project, resources, etc., and I let her know that things are good. She then asked me about the overrun on this one particular area, and I tell her that it is best she ask my boss. She then asks me to send her an email on this particular overrun, and I let her know, sure, I will make that happen. I follow back to my boss, let her know about the conversation with the VP in the elevator, and she blows up at me. Starts yelling and screaming and telling me that I am not to even talk with that VP or any VP about this project. I explained to her that, sure, I get it, but it would have been rude to not acknowledge this VP's questions since we were stuck in the elevator together and I did not seek out that meeting. She then begins to tell me that she has to write me up for being insubordinate and not honoring her request to not email, call, talk to VPs. I am floored, but nothing I can do. As I am leaving her office, she tells me that I made a mistake in hiring you. I thought you were different, but you're just as entitled as all the other men I've hired. Crap. So, this is going really well. Do I go to human resources and have them play their stupid games with me? Nah, not gonna solve anything, especially with a boss that has been at the company for 10 years or so. Human resources generally cares very little about employees and only really worries about risk and protecting the company. They aren't gonna do crap for me, so I don't report any of this. I seriously thought about filing a complaint about my boss's comments to me, but when I had the meeting where I had to sign my write-up, I decided against it given the HR officer had to read the write-up before I signed it, and I figured that since the write-up was based on a BS policy that my boss created out of thin air, I was right in assuming that HR would do crap for me if I had complained anyway. So I just tried to get through all this crap and start looking for another job on the side. 2 days later, I get a call from an SVP, to whom the VP from the elevator reports to. Now, my boss also reports to another VP. This VP is a female and also not the same one from the elevator. And this VP to whom my boss reports also reports to this SVP. This SVP asked me to come to a meeting that next day. I explained that I am happy to do so, but I will need to check with my boss first to ensure that there are no conflicts in the schedule. I also state to this SVP that I would appreciate it if she would contact my boss as well to ensure that my boss is made aware of her request. The SVP pauses and then tells me, no, that won't be necessary in this case, and then hangs up. Crap. So I email my boss, tell her that the SVP is requesting to meet with me the next day and wanted to make her aware of the meeting. She comes storming into my office around 5:30 p.m., about an hour before I usually leave, and closes my door and berates me for a good 20 minutes for talking with the SVP. She was so loud that one of the members of the department in which I worked was about to call security just before my boss exited my office. I knew my boss would be mad, but I didn't expect it to be anything like this. So the next day, I go to the meeting with the SVP. At that meeting is another 3 VPs. The first is the female VP whom I ran into in the elevator and was asking about overruns. The second is the female VP to whom my boss reports. And the third is a female VP that used to oversee the department in which I presently work. The SVP proceeds to ask me about the overruns. I explain as best as I can about the issues involved and also explain that I had prepared an email a few weeks ago about this. The VP, whom I ran into the elevator, states that she never got that email on the cost overruns from me. I then explain that it would not come from me, but would have come from my boss. The VP asks why I wouldn't send it. I say that is not my place to send emails to VPs. Then the SVP stops everyone from talking and says, "What did you just say?" I then reiterate my response. Then the SVP begins questioning me about this point. After about 15 minutes of my explaining to them that I am not allowed to communicate with them per my boss's orders, they are all pretty disgusted and frustrated. I further explain that this policy was created by my boss and has been consistently enforced by her for the past month or so. They tell me that they will have to come back to me on this, but in the meantime, they will get the emails about the overruns from my boss and follow up with her. Crap. So I go back to my office that day and realize that my head is on the chopping block. I am really in a no-win situation and I just have to wait for it to play out. And play out it did. I come into work the next day, it's a Thursday, and I don't think anything has changed. Seems like a normal, oppressive day and I am just waiting for the axe to fall on my head. I work most of the morning, and then right before lunch, I get an email. The email is from the SVP with all the VPs copied in on it that my boss is taking some time off and will be back in a few days. During her absence, all requests and management decisions will be made by the VP to whom my boss reports. I am not quite sure what this means, but given the weekend is coming up, I am just glad this friggin' week is almost over. Day goes by uneventful, and around 4 p.m. the VP responsible for the department in which I work comes down and comes into my office and tells me that as of that day, my department and I are no longer reporting to my boss, but I was now reporting directly to her. I ask what that means for the department and my job. She said nothing. It just means that the department will be better served under this new reporting structure given the increase in the amount of business that the department was engaged in since my hire, as well as the strategic internal leverage that would be needed going forward. I was also explicitly told that I was free to now communicate with any other VPs or SVPs of the organization as I saw fit. She then apologized for the experience I had with my boss and told me that she was unaware of my boss forbidding me to communicate with her or other VPs or SVPs. I take this all in, not knowing whom is telling the truth, but relieved that I will no longer have to endure being treated like a child by my boss. I then asked about my boss and her reporting relationship to the department's other team members and was told that she was forbidden to execute orders to them on her own unless she has my prior approval. Karma. I stay at this company about 3 years total, have a great working relationship with the VP, whom was now my boss, as well as the other VPs and SVP to whom they reported. I only left when I got a better offer in a different industry. My former boss was eventually counseled out over a 3-month period after HR investigated her behavior, interviewed me about the arbitrary rules about communicating with VPs that my boss had enforced on me, as well as her shouting at me and writing me up and disparaging me as a male. Talk about karma. Her write-up of me was used as evidence that she had actually implemented this no-contact policy solely with me, and because she wrote it up and put it in my employee file, it proved my veracity about the entire no-contact issue. In addition, and also compounding the problem, other alleged issues concerning cost overruns, financial reporting irregularities that she had hidden over the years. I have never seen her again, but if I ever do, I would love to be able to say to her, "Great seeing you again. I always tell people that you are the boss that taught me the importance of using email to further my career." TLDR, boss forbids me from emailing, communicating with upper management in an effort to ensure that she is the only one who gets credit for anything. Boss has a track record of bias against men and exhibits bias against me based on the same bias. This gets found out by my upper management, and then this leads to exposing my boss's attempts to hide her alleged financial malfeasance. Boss loses her job, and I keep mine.
Sadly, this kind of thing happens a lot in workplaces where this kind of bias basically gets a blind eye turned to, and a lot of times these bosses get away with this crap all the time. So it's really great to hear that just by him doing what she said, it ended up being found out what she was doing, and instead of just shrugging it off, especially because those were all female VPs, they actually took action. He ended up promoted, and she ended up losing her job. Like, is this not the perfect malicious compliance? Anyway, I think I'm just gonna do this one story today. I know normally I do multiple ones, but it has taken up quite a bit of time, so I hope that you did enjoy it. If you did, go ahead and drop a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Really quick, I would like to thank my patrons. Up on the screen, you should see my face palmers and my crazy K's. Thank you all so much for supporting me in that way, and I will be talking to you all in my next video. Bye!